Okay, so I believe we've started recording, so welcome again. Some of the ways that we have adapted this year, we have had to go far more on our website, looking towards putting videos for information via videos. We've put on a virtual tour of our campus, so where we couldn't invite you in to take an actual tour of our campus, we have got a virtual tour, so that might be something that would be quite useful for you. I'm not going to talk for very long this afternoon. My role really was to say hello and welcome. And then my role for the rest of the meeting is I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat pane. So if you have a question or you have a comment, please use the raising your hands. If you're familiar with Teams, it's toolbar at the top with your hand, raise that to ask a question. Or if you use the chat pane, then we'll bring you into the meeting, because this is about us opening another channel of communication, and we'd really like to hear from you. The only other thing I would say is we do actually have an open event next Wednesday on the 27th of January, and that might be a date for your diaries. You may want to pop in. That will be a live Teams event at 4:30. If you go on our website, you can book through Eventbrite and you'll be sent a link out to the open event. But please feel free to pass on that information to anybody that you think would benefit from coming to an open event, which is a little bit more generic, but would explain the curriculum, the wider curriculum that we're going to do today. Because for this afternoon, in a minute, I'm going to pass over to Martin, and he's going to talk about the ALN Partnership. We've got Sue Shepherd, who probably you all know, who's going to talk about our universal learning provision and our additional learning provision in the college. Al is going to give you a bit of information about vocational access and their curriculum. And I believe we might have our new enhanced transition and progression coach with us, but I'm not sure. If we haven't, then perhaps Sue will pick up on that. But for now, Martin, I am handing over to you.
Diolch, Karen. Hiya, everybody. Fab that you've been able to join us this afternoon. We're really grateful. It's as Karen said, it's a difficult time, but the main thing is we're talking, we're communicating, and that's going to be for the benefit of the learners, isn't it? I just like to say really that even though the partnership has been in existence for some time now, it might be worth my while just reminding everybody what it's about. And it's really the three things. Firstly, so that we can get more information about our learners that are going to come to us and hopefully get invited to individual reviews. And clearly that's where Sue and Sue's team come in. And I think we've all got Sue's contact details. And I know we're probably coming to the end of those reviews for the year, but if there are any, or you need to contact anybody about those reviews, please do that via Sue. And the other two main thrusts really concern Sue, Al, and myself and other colleagues. It's about having discussions with parents of learners and carers of learners. And clearly we were able to come into schools, which were those evenings we had in the schools were fantastic to meet the parents and the learners, but we can't do that now. But nevertheless, we would like to continue to have dialogue with parents, and we can do that individually by Teams or by phone. Or if you wanted to set something up via Teams, then we would be delighted to organise and participate. And the third thing, which is kind of completely off the agenda at the moment, is visits to campus. I recall last year that several schools, we had groups from several schools, those visits were fabulous. The kids got so much out of it. And even though we can't do that this year, as Karen has just said, there are virtual opportunities that maybe we can give information, learners can see what the college is like, and at least we can do our best given the circumstances. Martin Jones, eternal optimist. I've been saying to people in meetings yesterday and on Monday, I'm hopeful we're going to be able to get something going after Easter. Who knows? Nobody knows, but that's my hope. And if we can do that, then we may even be able to get some people to come and visit us on campus. The only other thing I'd say is that we've got an ALN partnership newsletter. We were planning on sending these out a couple of times a year, but clearly we've been a bit scuppered by circumstances. However, we have one in the starting blocks ready to go. Karen and Al and Sue and I and other colleagues have sort of contributed to that, and it's virtually ready to go. So that'll be hitting your inbox in the next week. There is some information in there that probably we won't have time to cover today, but there will also be information in there you will already know. Now, the plan today is not for us to talk so much, but for us to open up proceedings a little later, as Karen has said. So if anybody wants to ask me anything at this point, fantastic. Otherwise, I'm going to pass on to Sue. Sue, can I pass on to you at this stage?
You can pass on to me. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. You may know me by name and not actually in person, because although the invites get sent to me, we've got some background interference. Not sure if somebody needs to pop on mute. Gone. That's okay. So I was saying that you may know my name, and thank you to everyone who sends me the invites for the school reviews. But of course, I certainly don't do this job alone. I'm supported by a brilliant team and people that I can see on screen now, like Jackie Harris, and we've got Kelly Morgan, Rhian Francis, Gail Evans. The support team leaders, they're the people that you're probably going to meet, whether it's now via Teams or face-to-face when they come in to attend the school reviews. So my job role in college is Learner Services and Support Manager, but basically I manage the additional learning provision in college. And now, since the statutory role has become statutory in FE, I'm the designated ALN Co for Coleg y Cymoedd. So that's my role. And as I said, I've got brilliant big team of support workers, including specialist support, in the team of LSAs and the support team leaders and the other acting ALN COs. So I'm going to talk to you about support at college, because it's really important, obviously, that you in schools understand what it is that college can offer, in the same way that we need to understand the way that schools work, and so that the message that goes out to the young people, leavers, young people who are thinking of coming to college, and their families is consistent, and that we can offer that reassurance. Because as you'll be aware, often it's the parents' anxiety around what does support look like in college that is one of the biggest concerns at the time of transition. And having had for many years probably their son or daughter be well supported in school, and they know the staff and they know the way things work, that step into college can be very daunting, and we do understand that. And also because college is different, and the way that support worked and was offered in school isn't going to transfer exactly like for like into college. So that's why I wanted to talk to you really about the kind of terms that we use and what that covers. So I'm going to talk about universal learning provision and additional learning provision, so that you get a feel for what we mean by that. And I think my trusty assistant, Karen, is going to share the screen for me. Thank you. So I'm going to start with, can I start with universal, Karen, or is that too complicated to just get one up at a time?
Nope, that is absolutely fine.
Thank you so much.
I shall make that a little bit bigger for you.
Okay, brilliant. So when we talk about universal learning provision at college, and you'll find that all colleges will talk in with this terminology, because that's the way that the Act and the way that we plan our support has kind of introduced to us all to think in these terms. So what we're talking about here is the range of help and advice and support and guidance which is available to all learners. And what we're acknowledging is that all learners will need some kind of support at some point or another during their time in college. So this support is not just for learners who've got an additional need, but it does certainly includes learners who have an additional learning need. And what we're also saying is that for the majority of our learners, whether they do or don't have an additional learning need, this is what we expect would meet their needs. So this level of universal learning provision meets a whole range of needs, because it's aimed at lots of different things. And you can see here some of the things which we've included under our banner of universal learning provision. So learner services which all learners will have contact with right from the very beginning, in terms of applying for a course, getting information about the course, having help to get through the admissions process, plus all the information that they need around travel and transport, financial help, EMA, all of those kind of things. So learner services provide a huge range of services, and really that's the kind of one-stop shop, if you like. So if we were explaining to learners who do you need to speak to find out what help you can get, we'd say go to learner services, they'll point you in the right direction. We've also got a good welfare and well-being service. So that's addressing the whole host of issues which young people may have, which could impact on their studies, but aren't academic issues. They're more likely to be home, relationship, personal, mental health, all of those issues which obviously could have a big impact on their day-to-day performance and success in college. And they know that they've got somebody there that they can go to, who can signpost them to more help if they need it, or can help them get the strategies that they need in order to be successful in college. From a literacy and numeracy and digital ICT point of view, then that's built into the courses that we offer, and the Academic Success Team, or AST, are there to offer that kind of group and individual support to develop those skills, which is going to be an important part of any learner's time in college. Then the huge one really is the tutor support, and the way in which they differentiate and make adjustments and make their lessons inclusive, and know their learners, and the type of support and the type of differences that they need to put in place. And that comes about as a communication and a collaborative working between support and the tutors, so that they do know their learners with additional learning needs and what they need to have in place. So alongside that, the college has got the pastoral system with a personal tutor, with regular tutorials and one-to-one support, and other services, including our libraries or learning resource centres, which offer more than just access to the books. They offer a kind of study support, a whole range of accessibility through technology and resources that we can offer, and things like exam arrangements. And I know one of my colleagues is actually going to talk to you a little bit about exam arrangements and how you in school may be able to assist us with this. As you appreciate, access arrangements for exams can be given for a whole host of reasons, but it always needs to be based on sound evidence and good assessment by the specialists, so that we are being fair to everybody. And I think you'd really be able, as schools, to assist us in what is a huge undertaking to make sure that everybody who is eligible gets the right access arrangements. An important strand of the support that we offer, and many of those who have held school reviews with somebody from Coleg y Cymoedd will probably have heard about our I2A provision. So it stands for Inspire to Achieve, and it's a European funded project which has been running for a number of years in college now. But what it captures is we've got a number of posts of what we call I2A learning coaches, and they work with learners who are identified as being most at risk of disengaging, and that could be because of attendance problems, issues around their behaviour and how they present, or the difficulties in their attainment. And the learning coaches tend to work with learners on a one-to-one or very small groups outside of class, and they're addressing very issues which are important to that learner. So it's a very bespoke and individualised programme of support, and it's to help get young people back on track. It's not meant to be something that that they have continuously for the whole year, although they have it for as long as they need it, but it's very much something to help equip these young people with the strategies and the coping mechanisms and the help that they need in order to be successful in college. And the I2A learning coaches have a big role to play in the transition, in our enhanced transition. So when we've identified with you that somebody coming into college is likely to need something over and above what the normal transition process involves, then normally it's the I2A learning coaches are going to have a role in that. And that kind of leads me on then to the additional learning provision, which is a cue for Karen to get up the next slide for me. Thank you. So that universal provision, which I've just described, actually could include more things. And we're in the process of mapping as a college everything that we do. For example, we've got support for learners who are applying for university. So we've got a dedicated coordinator who supports the application process, as well as a team of people who are looking at the kind of futures and the next progression out of college. So we could add to that universal provision. There's a whole range there. And perhaps that's why you can see why we're saying that for majority of people, that is going to be sufficient, and that's what they need in order to be successful in college. We of course know that for some learners who have an additional learning need or disability, that they will require additional support, that extra support that is different or more than what can be offered through universal. And this is where the kind of extra comes in. So what do we have? Well, we have a team of learning support assistants, and that's usually familiar to pupils coming from school who have probably worked with a learning support or TA, however they've known them over a number of years and are used to that role. And we do have support workers who work in class with a learner or group of learners, supporting their work alongside the tutor. They also can support them out of class as well. And for some learners, that's kind of part of their progression on their journey, that they don't want to have that kind of support right next to them. They want to feel that they are having a fresh start, that they're becoming more independent. And obviously that's our aim, is to help learners on that journey and to help them develop those independent study skills. So our learning support team have lots of training, have lots of experience, and work with a whole range of learners with a host of different additional learning needs and health needs and anxiety, and a whole range of ways in which they can support that learner. And that includes, as you can see there, the kind of personal care and assistance, like with mobility. We have a changing place rooms equipped with hoists for those people who need that kind of personal care. And then we've got kind of experts or specialist staff in college that deal with particular areas such as sensory loss. So we have a team of communication support workers. Now they're all trained in British Sign Language. And they work with our deaf or hearing impaired learners, but actually they do have a wider role working with learners for whom communication, whether that's because of conditions like being autistic or other kind of communication issues, our communication support workers work alongside these learners and with the tutors and with the professionals to make sure that they can access the curriculum in college and the social side of being in college too. And things like support for visually impaired and blind learners, such as a sighted guide, making sure that the work is accessible in alternative formats, whatever that might be. And then key, obviously, to the changes that ALNet are bringing, and as is replicated already in schools, is the person-centred planning and the review meetings. Now, whilst in FE, we are going to be a little bit later in the formal implementation timescale in terms of maintaining IDPs and running person-centred review meetings. We have already gone down this route to make sure that our staff are informed and are aware of what this means and how it works in college and what it looks like. So we've been doing pilot meetings, if you like, and some of you, some school staff may have been part of that, particularly where we've got learners with more complex needs. And as you know, having that person-centred meeting, multi-agency with everybody who knows that learner that young person well is such a brilliant way of being able to plan and work with family, with the young people, and with the professionals in order to make sure that you get the best outcomes for that young person. So although we aren't required at the moment to be writing individual development plans, that's something which, again, we're piloting so that we can get to grips with it and be familiar with it, and we'll be expecting to see them coming in from you in school, obviously. I've talked a little bit about our specialist support in terms of communication support. We've also got SPLD qualified staff who have a big role in working with learners who have neurodiverse conditions, but particularly in putting in place the recommendations that inform our tutors of what's needed in class and the kind of support programme, the recommendations that helps us to put that in place. I could go on. There's the assistive technology and the equipment. Obviously, some learners need quite individual and bespoke devices or equipment, and we'd aim to put that in place. So, you know, as a college, we've bought radio aids and what have you for people, or other particular equipment that they need. And then the last one there is the enhanced transition, and I touched on this before. Obviously, it's a big step for any young person leaving school and coming into college, but some people we know are going to need what we call the enhanced transition support. And at some point during this meeting, I think Sarah's here, Sarah Evans. She's great. Yeah, Karen's nodding. She's recently in post. And she's, when I say in post, it's not a full-time role, but she's got hours in the week in which she's working to help develop what do we mean by our enhanced transition in college, so that we can communicate that more clearly to you in school, so that you can convey that to families, and that we've got a process that is understood by everybody about what extra we can offer to young people who need that additional help making the transition into college. So that maybe, as I mentioned before, linking up with an I2A coach, but it will probably mean lots of contact with the family and with you in school. It could mean taster sessions. It could mean that added opportunity to experience by sitting in on classes, all sorts of things which obviously we could do more easily in normal circumstances. But, and this is part of the conversation that we want with you, we're very keen to maintain that extra, that enhanced side of transition, and working with you to find the best ways in which we can do that. So that, I'm not conscious that I've talked all the way through that. You could have interrupted me at any point with any questions. I'm very happy to take any questions or put them in the chat pane for us to pick up. So I'll just open it to the floor. Would anybody like to come back with any queries? You're all quiet. Great. Okay. I mean, that gives you hope it gives you a flavour of how we view support in college and what it looks like. But I suppose what the most important thing is, what we try to do is to make it very personal, very person-centred, and so what support looks like for one young person is going to be different to another. It's all about putting that individual and bespoke package of support in place. So feel free, if you think of things, to pop them in the chat pane. I can always come back and pick up on any queries. Is that enough for now, Karen? Anything else I've missed, do you think?
No, I think that was really clear. Thank you, Sue. And as Sue said, please feel free to use the chat pane. We will have plenty of time. I think, no, we can move straight on. I think it's over to Al to have a chat about the curriculum offering vocational access.
Thank you. First of all, lovely to see so many familiar names and faces in this meeting this afternoon. Thank you for giving up your time to be with us. We truly appreciate it with what everyone's going through at the moment. Time is incredibly valuable. my aim really this afternoon is to go through our provision within the vocational access department, as we've gone through a significant change over the last few years in what courses we're offering and how we're delivering and the approaches we're taking. I'm going to talk about vocational access and generally about the college and the application process. So within vocational access, the school is almost split into two areas of independent living skills and foundation studies. So within foundation studies, we're looking at courses around the entry 3 level. Within ILS, we've got a number of different pathways, and this is for learners that are working at milestone 5 to entry 2 level. To give a bit of history on where these qualifications have changed and why they've changed, going back 4 years ago, Estyn completed a thematic review across all the colleges in Wales, looking at ILS provision. And a lot of the feedback that came from that review was that what was being offered in colleges was too classroom focused, it was too much worksheet based, and it wasn't really preparing our learners for the next stages of their life. So we've been involved, and fortunately I've been involved in the writing and developing of a new curriculum for our ILS provision, and this has been adopted and taken out across Wales. So we've rolled it out across all of our ILS provision this year. We piloted it last year with a few courses and it was really successful. But one of the key focuses within ILS has been to take away qualifications. Now, a lot of people initially were like, what's the point in coming to college if they're not going to have qualifications? What this has actually allowed us to do is make the courses incredibly person-centered. Everything is about the learner and about developing their outcomes from college. So that was the first part. We've developed non-accredited provision and we've created a new curriculum. The curriculum is known as the 4 pillars, and it basically starts with maths and English and digital literacy skills, overarching everything that the learner does in college. We appreciate that is one of the key areas we need to work on with our learners. That is something that potentially could hold them back as in future life, and it's those essential skills that they do need. Underneath that umbrella of skills, we then have these 4 pillars. The 4 pillars being independent living skills, employability, community, and health and well-being. All the activities are geared around individual targets that are set for the learners. So what we start to see is a picture sort of forming. We're bringing in, of course, the new IDPs, the review process. And during these processes, we start to set targets and actions for these learners. These targets fall through into the course, and this is where the learners start to develop. What we also found is on a lot of these courses, the learners that were coming in had such spiky profiles that, and I'm sure we've all heard this term, that they're very good in one area, but they're lacking in others. The nice part about these courses, it allows us to really focus on those areas that we've got to develop, that those learners need to develop. So if it is math skills, for example, or telling the time or using money, the course can be very much geared around developing those skills and helping those learners progress. The curriculum is very much a doing curriculum. It's about doing it rather than being told about it. And that's something that's been really important to us. That said, this year with COVID, I think it's brought its challenges with the restriction on movement of learners and bubbles and so on. But the plans are certainly there, and I think the tutors are doing fantastic jobs to actually adapt this curriculum to make it as practical as it possibly can be. So what we're seeing learners being far more settled in college. We're seeing the outcomes becoming really important, and what we're starting to see is the progression route. We focus the whole view with these learners. It's before they come to college, it's during college, and it's after college. That's what we're looking at. Again, following that IDP. So our transition activities, and hence really our meeting today, become incredibly important. The more information that we've got about the learners in them coming to college, the better. It will help us plan, prepare, and set realistic and achievable targets for the learners. During the course then, it's about setting the meaningful targets, giving the opportunities, and giving opportunities in a creative way that allow learners to progress, develop, and challenge them as well. And then it's about providing that stepping stone out of college as well. When we initially went to meetings with Colleges Wales and Welsh Government, we were talking about ILS provisions and learners coming into courses and almost becoming part of the fixtures and fittings in colleges. In some cases across Wales, they were saying that the learners had been there longer than the principal, longer than key members of staff. And that was something that we wanted to get away from, that the process of coming to college becomes meaningful and sets up the next stage of that individual's life. What is happening then? So we've got a Pathway 2 course, which is, as I said, the milestone 5 to entry 2. So that's our lower level. Within the Pathway 2, we have a number of different routes. And again, it's very hard to say exactly where a learner would be. And this is where the transition activities come in and the expertise of the school staff working with the college staff to identify the best possible option for learners. Beyond that, then we have a Pathway 3 course, which is for learners, again, sort of with our ALN, possibly complex needs, that are working towards entry 3 level. And again, it follows the same sort of format with the 4 pillars, maths and English being involved. The difference on the Pathway 3 course is that we can also add qualifications where needed. And that could be, if they're coming on the Pathway 3 just to develop confidence, because these learners, it could be they haven't thrived in school, there's been social, emotional, behavioural issues with them, they haven't thrived in school, it's that chance for them to settle into college, and we're using that year to prepare them for that next step, and that could be into mainstream education. So they could do qualifications, they may do skills, it could be they're looking at going into catering and would do a food hygiene qualification, it could be first aid type qualifications, so on and so forth. What we've then got from there, we find that a lot of learners will get to that point and they could plateau academically, and we were really concerned that we didn't really have options or exit strategies for them from college. So that is something that we're really trying to work on. What we've actually brought in is a Gateway to Employment course. This course is for learners who've been in college that have been through our ILS pathways, and it's, as it says, it's a gateway to employment. It's about getting them realistic work experience. The course is based where learners will attend 1 day a week in college where they will do all employability skills, and then up to 4 days a week out in placement. Now these placements, it's not like your standard school placements, and I say that with all due respect. It is classed as being work. They are there and they are employed by employers during that time, and they would be treated as an employee. The difference being we would have job coaches who would support them out on these placements. We're fortunate enough to have Rhondda and Taff County Council with us as our key employer, which has been fantastic. Last year was our first year of the course. Unfortunately, it was brought short because of COVID, but we had some amazing outcomes on this course. We managed to place 8 learners with the local authority in different roles, from catering to working in Ynys Anharad Park as park supervisors, to the libraries, so on and so forth. One of our learners actually got Apprentice of the Year. It was awarded Apprentice of the Year through the local authority, which for me is amazing. That he was up against graduates, A-level learners who were going through into apprenticeships, and it was one of our ILS learners that actually got this award. And it proved to me that there's a place for everyone, and everyone should be given these opportunities. He has absolutely thrived in this. The pleasing part of this, he was then offered a job by the local authority, and he's now on a 1-year contract with them, which I'm hoping will move into far more. So that's one of the good stories, and it's great to see that learner thriving, and we want to see more of this, and that's what we're pushing for. I think as we go forward, we'll have more scope for employability type courses, giving those exit strategies. What's also really important, I think, to bring in on this is local authorities currently working on a transformation project for post-25 learner clients, and their model is following very similar to that of the 4-pillar model. Their focus is on home, health and employment. Now we can see the links to what we're doing in college, and that our pathway from college would go into what local authority are doing with these learners beyond. So that's the overview of what we're doing. Like I said, it's very much a doing type course. So rather than talking about making toast, they're making toast. They're doing craft projects. They're out in the gardens. We've adapted our resources and our facilities on site. For example, in that Garrow, we've put a shop on site where the learners from ILS run the shop. We've got a market garden on 2 of our campuses. We've recently taken over the caretaker bungalow in Ystrad, and we've turned that into an ILS house, so we can really focus on independent living skills. Fantastic facility. And for schools that are local to that area, it's a facility we'd be happy to share if you had learners that you wanted to bring down, again, as part of transition type activities. So yeah, that's very much our ILS pathways. What we then have is the second part of the department, which is the foundation learning and entry 3 provision. So this is for learners who have, again, academically struggled, who haven't possibly achieved as they would have hoped. So would have 3 GCSEs at grades A to E. For the foundation, we offer a range of different topic areas. We've kept it as topic areas because we feel it really engages the learners and helps them buy into the whole college process. There is a massive focus on maths, English and digital literacy skills, because again, it's the key thing that these learners really need to develop. But the topic areas we have at entry 3 are sport, catering, hairdressing, creative media, performing arts, and care and service industries. So there's a nice range of topics there to get learners to engage into college. The ideal progression for those learners at the end of those qualifications after the 1 year would be into mainstream, and that would be into our level 1 programs. And again, that could be in any of the vocational areas across the college. So that's a whistle-stop tour of vocational access. There is information coming out in the newsletter which really breaks down what we've got on offer. Like Martin has said, I think this meeting today is very much about opening these communication channels that faces that you can go to in the college to help and advise as we go forward. Like has already been said, I'm really hoping that we can get some taster days or transition type events, hopefully after Easter, fingers crossed, but who knows at the moment. If we can get summer schools set up, that would be something that we would try and put in place. With regards to applications this year, we do run an online application process. So our preferred method for learners applying is to complete the online application process. It's an automated system that we have. We're able to generate the reports and pass the information to the relevant parties from a college point. Now, I know from another meeting I've been in this week that it has been raised that some learners are struggling with the online process. We appreciate that, and we appreciate that there's different people have different levels of expertise with IT or access. We are there, and we are a phone call away to deal with any issues as well. So if you are aware of any learners that are struggling, please come to us, and we will do it case by case to get those applications moving and support them as best we possibly can. So from the application process, what we're doing is online application that goes into our central admissions process. From there, for majority of our mainstream courses, you will get an automatic offer, conditional offer on a course. However, on certain courses where there's possibly auditions or evidence-based is needed before they apply, for example, some of our music courses and creative media courses, the tutors would be in touch with the learners before a conditional offer goes out. So a learner will have a conditional offer based on the conditions that are outlined on the college website. For ILS, we felt, because of the nature of our learners and the concerns that we'd have of where we actually place them, we're doing the online application. We'll get the information from that. We then disseminate that to the course tutors, who make contact with the learner directly to discuss the options that are available to them and find the best possible course for them. So we're trying to keep that very person-centered and specific to the individual. So that is our process at the moment. Again, I think if we put this out to any questions, if you want to do it via the chat pane, or if you want to put your hands up, please do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. We'll just pause for a second. Although we've got a question coming in. C. Morgan, if you want to introduce yourself, let us know where you're from as well.
Yeah. I'm Carol Morgan, and I'm from Corpus Christi High School. Sorry, I'll put my thing back on. I've got a couple of students who have, well, one student in particular has got severe learning difficulties. Mum has been contacting me. Would you recommend that she joins the open event on the 27th? Will questions, can she ask questions then? Would that be a good time for her to do it?
Yes, yeah, that's one option, is through that. The other option, if you would like to send us the details, we will make contact with them as well. Because I appreciate with some of our more complex cases, it's having those individual discussions, possibly before even applying. So yeah, if you could pass those details back through to us.
She has been in contact. Geraldine Barry actually came to his annual review.
Right.
And I think she's been in contact as well with is it Claire Hughes Davis?
Yeah, Claire's actually on the call with us now. So she's here.
Right, okay. Yeah. It's so she's contacted me a few times, the parent, because she said she was having trouble contacting you. I don't think she knows what to do, basically. I think he has got severe learning difficulties, so I'm thinking she's not even sure what sort of course. But having listened to this now, probably ILS would be the ideal course for him. So if I perhaps give you his details or email you, and then perhaps you would be able to contact her, or
that would, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Claire and Geraldine.
I won't say the pupil's name, but she may well know who. If I mention the name, she probably would know.
Yeah, that's, if you could sort of direct messages through email, that would be great.
Okay, lovely.
And we'll chase that up and make contact with them.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any other questions? No.
Maybe we could pose you a question, and feel free to pop an answer in the chat pane, or if you're feeling brave, put your hands up. We've given quite a lot. Oh, you have got a question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. There we go.
I just wanted to go back over the application process, because at the moment, as we are with pupils at home, I'm in that position where I can give information to parents, but I can't ensure that they will apply online. I've got some pupils, parents, who are just not going to be able to do that. And obviously my learners, I'm in Ysgol Coch, are probably not going to do it without one of us. What usually happens is we'd sit with them and go through the process. I'm not able to do that right now. So I wondered what's the possibilities of school actually applying for those places for the pupils ourselves.
Okay. Do you want me to pick up on this, Al?
Yeah, if you would, from an application process. I'm not sure. Yeah,
from an application process, what we found, I think last year this did happen, because I think we were in a similar position because it was in March. I think this is something that it's the second time it's come up today, so I'm going to follow this up as a matter of urgency. There isn't technically an issue with you helping or applying. The difficulty is when you use a school email address because you have to set up an account and you have to log in. If whatever that email address is that is used is the one that we use to contact the learners, which probably isn't going to be ideal. Probably what would be more helpful for you if there was a way that we bypassed having to set up an account and actually went back to a more sort of paper-based, if not sort of a digital paper-based version. So if you could leave that one with me, and I think we will get the answer back out to you very, very soon, because I think we need to tackle this, because you're not the only one that is having those difficulties, and we don't want people to be put off or having any barriers for applying.
Again,
I think the online version works well for individuals, but I think when it's from a school, we don't want to bombard you with a lot of our keeping warm messages and messages for the learners. We need to get that straight back out to the learners or their parents. Sorry, Al, do you want to?
Sorry.
We were intending to ask them for an email address as a contact point for so when you contacted them, it would be with the parents, but I can't guarantee that all my parents have actually got emails either.
No, we appreciate that.
As a sort of keeping warm type of activity, if you could send us the list of the learners that you feel that this is really going to affect, and we could, from our side, we could make some contacts as well, just to say that we are looking at a process of how we can get this done, and we can possibly give a little bit more information on the courses direct to parents as well. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
And I believe Martin has his hand up, so I think he might come in with
just to remind everybody that we're talking about keeping in contact with us. If anybody who's with us today hasn't got email addresses and contact, not necessarily contact numbers, certainly my contact number, on the ALN newsletter which is coming out, all of our contact details are highlighted in there. And because I'll make sure everybody who's attended today and everybody else on the partnership schedule gets a copy of that partnership newsletter, so everybody will have everybody else's contact details. Okay, so just to make sure, because we don't want you to say, yeah, get hold of us, and then you go away and you're thinking, oh, I haven't got their contact details.
So I think I was about to throw a question out, and it's really, given what you've heard so far, is there anything missing? Have we missed anything key that you need to? Obviously, we had with the application, so thank you for raising that. But is there anything else that we are missing or that we can do to support you? Because as Al said and Sue said, we would like to make this transition as smooth as we possibly can. But really, we'd like to hear from you. What else can we do? I apologise, it's not giving me first name, so I've got A. Holland.
It's Ashley, it is.
Ashley, thank you.
Cool. I'm sorry, I'm asking another question.
That's fine.
Something that comes up from my parents a lot of the time is about transport to the college, and that can be an issue for parents, particularly if our guys in the situation we're in now have not gone through the travel training process. So what is available for transport? Because I know I'll be asked that question.
Al, are you all right to pick up on the transport that happens?
Yeah, well, basically, I think it's really with Sue here. Possibly, I'm going to pick on Sue. I'm not passing it around a bit. I think each case is taken. It's done on an individual case with regards to transport. I appreciate the sort of travel training. It has been raised our side as well. That and I know the schools do a lot of work to prepare learners in those months running up to come into college. I think this is very much we're going to have to look case by case and see where those individual problems do occur. If I'm perfectly honest, if I'm thinking of September, I think our start to college is still going to be challenging with COVID, and I think under our ILS programs, this could be initial targets that we have to work on around sort of travel training. And if that is a sort of blended approach that we have to have with certain learners to get them ready to come to college, maybe that's something we would have to do. It could even be those initial weeks that we have to have a massive focus on travel training. What I would say on each of the campuses, from an arrivals point of view, we have learning support staff who meet learners coming into college. So it's the in-between from home, the actual on the buses, in the taxis, that tends to be the main issue here. So yeah, I think it would be more of a focus on travel training in September, or it could be a focus of, if we're allowed to, through summer schools and activities there, doing more on travel training.
I think if I can just come in and Gail, please do. I can see you've got your hand up, Gail, and Gail is support team leader at Nantgarrow and deals with a lot of inquiries about taxis and things. I suppose that the important thing is just to recognise that the college doesn't supply transport in itself. It's about having to make that application through the local authority. So that's why it's also important that that young person goes to the campus to do the course which is nearest to them, because that's where it can run into difficulties with the local authority, because they supply transport to the nearest provision. But it is about getting in that application. Careers are often involved in making, they don't make the application, but they can support the application. And it is about having the right details to fill in the forms that the local authority use to make sure that we've got all the right details. Gail, because you've got your hand up, I'm presuming you want to talk about transport. Is it okay if you want to come in now? Yeah.
Yeah, important to make that application to Rhondda Cynon Taf. Rhondda Cynon Taf have a panel. I sit on that panel sometimes. They usually send me a list of learners who are leaving this year, and then I check our database to see which campus they go into, and then I can obviously send that information to Rhondda Cynon Taf. Their first sort of suggestion to learners is the actual transport training, which is carried out by the Youth Engagement Programme services. And then, if parents feel that at this time is not the preferred mode of transport into the college, so to catching a service bus, there are some college buses, so obviously depending on what area you live in, then it's up to the parents to sort of state that, and then it's reviewed and looked at again. The only issue I would say, like Sue said, is it is usually the nearest campus to where you live. The student would need to apply, and if the student is over 19, then it does automatically go to a gateway panel, because they tend not to provide taxi service for learners over 19. I don't know if that will change now with regard to ALN, whether that barrier will now raise to 25. I've not sat in a meeting or been invited to a meeting with transport for a while now, but I have an email from Linda Combs, who's head of transport, pending in my box, which came today, around some of them. So, but the most important thing is to apply to the council first for that transport.
Thank you, Gail. Sue, I don't know if that's a legacy hand or you had some guests. No, okay.
No, it is a new hand. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, transport is a big issue every year for lots of families, and we do have, as Gail's indicated, we do have good communication links with the Transport Office. So we'll do what we can to assist with it. But yes, if you've got any particular individual issues, just come back and we can see what we can do. I just wanted to come back in regarding knowing the learners that might struggle with the application process, just to say that we did actually have a similar meet yesterday with Careers Wales advisors, and they're going to send us a list of the learners that they work with, because they were concerned about exactly the same thing. Normally, they'd go into school, they'd be sitting with your young people, they'd be assisting them in the application process, and they haven't been able to do that. And they were concerned that there were going to be learners and families who just didn't have access, who didn't have the skills, who just weren't up to making that application. We didn't want them to miss out. So we are going to kind of cross-reference with the names that we're sent to make sure to see if we've received an application form, and make direct contact if we haven't, just to see if we can assist in that process. But I suppose the other thing to say is that you may have additional names to those that Careers Wales would work with. These learners don't have to have a statement. They could be vulnerable or have needs which but perhaps haven't been formalised in the way in which Careers Wales advisors would work with these young people. So please do just alert us to any individuals that you think needs that extra help, and we'll certainly pick up on it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Sue, what is the best email address for people in the meeting to use for that? Because I'm saying we keep saying
Yeah.
contact us.
Me.
What is the best
Yeah,
to Sue?
we said careers was going to send the lists to me. So
Okay.
yes, to me, I will then make sure it gets to the right person in college, whether that's a support team leader or a campus coordinator. But yeah, just use mine. That will be absolutely fine.
That's fab. Could you type it in the chat pane? I'm sure everybody's got it,
Yes,
because
I
I'm
will
sure
do.
everybody's been in contact with you, but that would be really helpful.
Yep, no
Thank you.
problem at all. And
This is great. And while Sue's doing that, are there any other questions that we can help with? We've only got one other little section for input, so please, anything you've got, however small, please ask us.
Can I just ask?
Of course, yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear me, sorry. I was en route somewhere else and just had to sit down with my phone to join. You know, the ALN newsletter that's coming out, will that be sent out digitally now? Because I'm thinking about whether I've got all the contact details.
Martin, yep, over to you, Martin.
Yeah, yes, we can send that out digitally. And I was just making a note, actually, just to highlight all of our contact details. We're hoping that's going to be going out early next week.
All right, yeah. Lovely.
As I got the floor, can I just mention something else? We held a useful meeting with some staff and learners at Tonnereville Community School before Christmas. That's Al, Sue, and myself, and we did it via Teams. So we'd be more than happy to do a similar thing with learners. And as I mentioned earlier on, we'd be more than happy to do a similar thing with parents and staff as well. Because all we need really is for schools, for staff in schools, for you guys to tell us what you want to do, and we'll do it.
Thank you, Martin. I'll leave everybody with a bit of thinking time now in case you've got something that just crops up. I know I'm not very good at thinking of a question on the spot, but I'm going to ask Carrie Jones, who has, I believe, joined us. She was going to talk about Form 8. So I'm hoping Carrie's here, and if not, I know Sue's going to jump in.
No, I am here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, following the guidance from the Joint Council for qualifications, they've been trying to encourage building these relationships between the schools and colleges and ensuring that there's kind of consistency from school into college. So this is our plea really, because this year has been particularly tricky with gathering information and ensuring that reasonable adjustments and access arrangements are put in place in a kind of timely manner. That if you do have any Form 8s that could be rolled forward, possibly in PDF format. Sorry, my son's talking a second. Ben. Sorry. Yeah, if you do have any PDF formats, that'd be great, but hard copies are absolutely fine as well. And if we could be really cheeky and ask for the qualifications of the specialist assessor, that would be great as well. So just photocopies or scanned in versions. And for those that have digital copies, screenshots are absolutely fine as well. And then we will be able to put those reasonable adjustments and access arrangements in place. That's Spirit, I think. Thank you.
That's fine, Carrie. Thank you. So if there's any queries or questions, or you foresee any difficulties with that, please let us know. Oh, we've got a hand up from C. Morgan.
Yeah.
Hi.
So would we send the Form 8 to anyone in particular? Where would you like the Form 8 sent?
I'm thinking probably through Sue again.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
fine.
okay,
You just
Sue?
got of course it
Okay.
is. Yeah, I just use that one contact, and I can pass it on
Yeah.
to you. No
Okay.
problem. Thank you.
Everything to go evidence-wise through Sue, and then Sue can kind of give them out to whoever they need to go to. So that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant, thank you. So I am going to open the floor. Martin, I can see you still got your hand up, but I don't know if that is a legacy hand or whether you wanted to come back in.
No, I'm very quiet, as I always am. Thanks, Karen. Done.
That's definitely not true. again, I'll open the floor. What I won't do is I won't keep you any longer than is absolutely necessary, because we do know that your time is precious. If you do find this helpful, then we are quite happy to put on more of these meetings. Or if you have questions, you've got Sue's contact details. Martin will send out contact details. I'm going to go to Sue because she's got her hand up.
Thank you. I did want to ask, and I appreciate you may not be able to answer now, but again, maybe it's something that you could think about and get back to us. What some of the most important work that we do is finding out about young people's support needs as early as possible, well in advance of them starting at college, and that's why attending school reviews is such an important part of meeting up with you. But what we normally would do in usual circumstances is to actually catch up again with that young person, invite them into college, meet with their parents and talk them through a learning support interview, if you like, in which we can get lots of details about and how they'd like to be supported, and we can talk to them about what's going on in college. Now, we were in the same position last year before people enrolled, and we did try contacting people by email and what have you, but as you've already pointed out, that's not always the best method of communication. And I just wondered whether you felt there would be any opportunity in the school day, maybe for us to join a lesson, the way that you deliver it online, in order to have a time where some of our LSAs could perhaps link up with some of these young people, just to have a chat with them. Now, I don't know how doable that is, or whether that's something that you wouldn't fit into the way in which you're delivering your online teaching and learning. But if you've got any ideas at all, if you could organise, something so that we can either have one-to-ones or small group chats with some of these young people, that would be brilliant. So any ideas? Thank you.
I think that's probably one to take away and have a think about. And again, got Sue's email address there. If you come up with any thoughts, please let her know. But again, we will work with you as best we can. I'll just give another quick opportunity for any questions. No, I think hopefully this has been helpful for you, and that this has given you some information that perhaps you didn't know before, or it has been a refresher for things that you did know, and it's given you a bit of confidence that we really do care about the transition. We know how well you are looking after your learners at the moment, and we know it's difficult to pass on that responsibility to somebody when you don't quite know what's going to happen. So we're here to reassure you that we will take as good a care as those young people that have been with you as you have for the last 5, 6, or maybe even 10 years. So I think that's, unless anybody else has got anything, I'm going to close the meeting there. Oh, Sue?
Karen, I'm so sorry.
Yes. That's okay.
It's me all the time. I just noticed that Sarah's here, and whilst I don't want to put her on the spot, I didn't know whether she just wanted to touch on her transition role.
I knew that's why you put your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah.
Working in the background. Yeah, that's fine. So, hi, everyone. So as Sue touched on briefly earlier, I've been allocated some hours to work as transition and progression coach in the college. It is early days, but it is looking at more the enhanced transition side of it, and we're looking to develop toolkits for both learners coming into college, but also for staff to know what's involved, who's involved, and how that process works. What we're hoping to do is link that up with the schools and the work they are doing, so we can identify early on what we need to be doing as part of that process, and coordinate then the transition experience, if you like, then together. When it was mentioned earlier about, I don't know if come into it, but just as a possible idea, when it was mentioned about transport, so that could be something that's identified early on for a learner with ALN, and something that needs to be addressed then and resolved before they do come into college, and that can form part of that provision. I think Sue mentioning earlier about the universal learning provision. So transition is available to all learners that come to college, but the enhanced transition falls under the additional learning provision, which Sue has already said, which is above what we currently offer. Yeah, I don't know if I'm, the progression side of it as well, I should just quickly mention. So when a learner does come in to college after having maybe enhanced transition experience, it doesn't stop then once we know they're settled in college, because we're aware things can change quickly, and some will need that ongoing support. And we have some learners, which we already do within vocational access, that progress onto mainstream courses. And again, then that change in course, how they're taught, can be a big difference or change for them. So it's accommodating there what we can to make sure that that support is provided throughout their time in college. And that also runs into then, if they were to progress outside of college to other education providers or training. So we're going to make sure that process is followed through from when they start in schools, during their time in college, and then looking at what they're doing next. I think that's, so I'm happy to answer questions, but it is early on, and I'm aware schools will be working differently at the moment. And although we've got an idea of how we want this to look, our current situation with COVID isn't going to allow for that. So if schools do have any ideas or suggestions in what they're planning to try and do, I am happy to work with you guys to see what we can do as a college then to accommodate and support that. I think that's me covered, I think.
That's brilliant, Sarah. I'm glad that Sue put her hand up and we were able to introduce you. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I think I can see that a couple of people have probably got other meetings to go to. So thank you ever so much. It has been really valuable. We really appreciate your time. Please get in touch with us, however small your query is. We are here to answer any queries that we can. So thank you very much, Diolch, and we will be in touch. Look out for the ALN newsletter. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
I think Sonia, there we are. JR, we might have got stuck.
Julia's there. She's leaving now.
And I'm just stopping.